Hi, fourth graders. Mrs. Taylor, your school counselor here. I'm doing a recording of our lesson from this week. I was a silly person and did not record the lesson as I was teaching the lesson. So I'm learning from my mistakes, which is a growth mindset, by the way, in case you forgot or did not know. So I am making a personal recording for you if you weren't unable to join our lesson on Thursday. This year, for the first quarter, we are talking about habits for success, things that kids do and adults do actually to help them be successful academically, in their personal relationships, in their friendships, and if they're working as an adult, things that make them successful at work, great qualities to have. You received a packet, or you should have received a packet when you came to pick your Chromebook up, and the packet looks like this. We'll be using this packet as we go along this quarter. If you do not have a packet, I have more at Star. You can stop by and pick one up. Just let me know you're heading over and I'll have it ready for you. And I'll also put the activities in our Google Classroom. I'm going to screen share today to show the lesson part, and then we'll quickly go over the page of activities in a little bit. So let me screen share so you can see my screen and see what I'm seeing. And I'll start the slideshow. All right, so I am up here. Your presentation is below me. The topic for today, habit number 1, that make kids very successful and adults very successful, is a skill called being proactive. And that simply means being in charge of yourself. Proactive people, they choose their actions and attitudes. So in this instance, the little girl is saying, I can choose to be nice even when others are unkind to me. She is making a choice as to how she responds. A reactive person might let people decide how they feel and act. So this little girl in the same circumstance says, well, she made me angry. I couldn't help being mean. That is a reactive response. Instead of taking charge and thinking, how can I handle this in a positive way? She's just feeling angry and she's lashing out or reacting. The proactive approach is always the best approach. When proactive people see a problem, they take charge and they fix it. Like the girl on the green, well, someone left books on the ground, I'll clean them up so they're out of the way. She's realizing this can be dangerous. Someone could trip and fall. It doesn't look very nice, and it'll be harder to find a book that you are looking for when they're in a mess. Even though she didn't make the mess, she knows it's the right thing to do. A reactive person, when they see a problem, they often wait for someone else to fix it. So in the girl in the orange, well, I wish someone would clean up these books. They're in my way. So she's not tackling the problem, she's pushing it off on someone else. She's just reacting, what a mess. Maybe someone else will take care of it. Proactive people admit when they're wrong or have made a mistake. This is a challenge for a lot of people, adults included. When you mess up, be proactive and say, hey, I'm sorry. In this instance, the girl says, I'm sorry for spilling my juice. I'll clean it up. No big deal. Reactive people blame others for their actions and mistakes. So in the orange, she said, well, it's not my fault. She bumped me. She should clean it up. This is something I think when we learn virtually is going to be very important, boys and girls. As we're going along, if you do miss a live lesson, if you do make some mistakes on your assignments, please just tell your teachers, tell me, tell your family, hey, I messed up or I'm struggling. Can you help me or how can I help? Proactive people do the right thing, even if no one else is watching. In the green, she says, well, I'll play with my baby brother to keep him from crying, even though no one is looking. She's not getting rewarded. She's not giving words of appreciation. She's just doing it because she knows the baby needs help. Versus a reactive response would be only doing the right thing if the person knows they'll get a reward. The girl in the orange says, I'm not going to help him unless I get some kind of reward. She's not thinking about the importance of helping the baby. She's thinking more about, what can I get out of it? Reactive people are like a rowboat with no oars that goes wherever the wind and waves take it. These people aren't in control and go wherever life takes them. They let other people decide how they feel and what they do. And if they never take control of their emotions and their actions, when the storm comes up, they might sink. So something goes wrong, they get mad. Something happens, they get upset. Instead of making the best with what has happened. Proactive people are like a motorboat that can steer and control where it goes. They take charge of where they're going in their life. When difficult things happen, they choose their attitude and how they act. And since they take charge of their emotions and their actions, when the storm comes, they don't sink. So basically, there are going to be challenges in your life. There are times when things aren't fair. There are times when things go wrong. There are times when you're like, why? Why did this happen to me? A proactive person says, okay, this is what has happened. How am I going to handle it the best way, the most responsible, respectful way, and how can I make it turn into a positive? So now here's your little challenge to know the difference. Is it a proactive response or a reactive? You'll have to self-check. And then we have some little bells and whistles that are going to go off. In the following stories, decide if the person is making a proactive choice or a reactive choice. And again, we always are aiming for the green choice, the proactive approach. Okay, here is your challenge number 1. Hannah lost a game of checkers. Even though she was sad, she smiled and said, "Good game." Was she being proactive in her response, or was she reacting? Proactive. She made a proactive choice by being polite, even though she felt sad. She chose to act instead of reacting to how she felt. So when you do lose, instead of throwing a fit, getting angry, being sad, pouting, all those kinds of reactive behaviors, instead find a positive, proactive way. Hey, good game. Or think, well, how can I do better next time? Juan saw a boy who looked sad sitting alone during recess. He asked the boy if he wanted to play with him. Was Juan being proactive or reactive? Guess it? Yeah. This was a proactive choice. When Juan asked the boy to play, he showed he was proactive by seeing a problem and trying to fix it. I love that definition of being a proactive person, is when you see a problem, it's not just complaining about the problem, oh, wah, this went wrong, this went wrong. Instead, it's saying, okay, here's the problem, here's what's happening, what can I do to solve it or make it better? The teacher asked Lily to pick up the bag next to her before she could go out to recess after lunch. Lily said, "But that isn't mine," and wouldn't pick it up. Was she being proactive or reactive? I bet you know. That's a reactive choice. What would a proactive choice have been? Yeah. Proactively, she could have cleaned up the mess, picked up the bag without anyone having to ask her. So not just complying with the adult request, when the adult says, hey, will you pick it up? Saying, okay, but seeing it and thinking, you know what, there's a problem. I'll take care of it. Sarah saw a piece of trash on the ground. She threw it away, even though no one was looking. Was she being proactive or reactive? By now, I bet you've got it, boys and girls. She saw a problem and she fixed it instead of waiting for someone else to fix it. We're almost done. Megan broke her pencil. She waited until the teacher noticed and got a new one. She missed half her assignment while waiting. Was she being proactive or reactive? Yeah. Did you get it? Yeah. This was reactive. She sat and waited. She didn't take action. What would a proactive choice what would have that been? Does that make sense? What would that be? Um, yeah, there's a lot of different options. Proactively, she could have simply sharpened her pencil. She could have gotten a new pencil out that was sharp, or she could have asked the teacher for a pencil instead of waiting for someone to notice. So there were a lot of other options instead of missing half the assignment and just sitting there. Eric sat quietly during the assembly, even though the people next to him were talking. Was he being proactive or reactive? I know personally for me, this is difficult. This will be a hard choice for me. What do you think he is doing by sitting quietly? He chose to stay in control of his actions. He didn't get upset. He didn't yell. He sat quietly, even though he may have wanted to talk like the other children. So he still made a very positive choice in a difficult situation. And this one, I know it happens sometimes, and it's a tough one too. Someone cut in front of Jack in line for lunch. Jack pushed him and called him a mean name. Was he being reactive or proactive? Pushing and calling mean names, that would be a reaction to a problem, not a positive, proactive approach. Pushing and calling names is never, it's never really a good idea. How could Jack have been proactive? He could have chose to remain calm and not say those mean things, even though he was feeling mad. It's okay to feel mad. Feelings are okay to have, but it's what you do with those feelings. Making a good choice, a proactive choice. James didn't bring his homework to school. When the teacher asked him where Mrs. Taylor, where it was, he said his mom forgot to put it in his backpack. Was he being proactive or reactive? And this, I have heard students say this. That is a reactive answer. He's like, oh, my mom didn't do it. Well, whose work is it, boys and girls? We know this, we've talked about this. Yeah, it's your work. What would a proactive choice have been? Just admit that he forgot his homework and come up with a plan to remember it the next day. So it's learning from your mistakes, thinking, okay, I forgot to turn it in, or if I forgot to do it, or I forgot to bring it, how can I problem solve? Make sure I check my agenda. Make sure I do what's on my agenda. And then once I complete the task or assignment, put it back in my folder, in my book bag, ready to go. Problem solved. Your turn. We are going to skip a few of these slides because I think by now you know it. But there's extra ones for practice. Here is your activity to do. I gave you 4 situations that we've actually had at STARS School, and I'm challenging you to think about a reactive response and a proactive response. Remember, the proactive is a positive way to handle it. A reactive is more of an emotional, impulsive thing that doesn't really solve the problem. You can answer any of those 4 in those 2 boxes, or your bonus or your challenge to think about your own situation. What would a reactive response have been in it and a proactive response? I will share a quick example. The first Zoom live session that I did this week with a grade level was not my finest moment. I had technology problems. The kids were very chatty. It was not good. I went home and I cried. A reactive response. The positive proactive response, which I did the following day, was to call tech help, seek support for my technical questions. And I also asked a teacher, Mrs. Holzauer, and she suggested some tips for me. So even adults don't always respond proactively. I had initial reactive response. I thought about it, calmed down, and then took a proactive approach to solving the problem. If you have any questions, my loves, please email me or message me. And thank you for watching our first 4th grade lesson. I will see you next time.